Thank you. I'm honored to be here with all of you and the wonderful musicians. So the question I want to ask today is, do minds need art? Some scientists say no. Neuroscientist Steven Pinker famously wrote that the arts meet a biologically pointless challenge, how to tickle the pleasure centers of the brain. Some politicians say no. They don't feel it's worth supporting our artists and art institutions. And some educators say no. When school budgets are cut, the arts are often the first to go. As a composer, I felt very concerned about the declining value of the arts in our society. They're too often treated as a luxury, and arts education as a matter of special access or privilege. Like all artists, I believe minds need art, and I think brain science is beginning to show us why. Neuroscientist David Eagleman divides mental behavior into two basic types: automated and mediated. In automated behavior, the brain streamlines neural networks. The goal is reliability and efficiency, the same outcome every time. That's why habits are so hard to break. The brain has literally pruned away the options. Automated behavior is largely unconscious. That's where it functions most effectively, and we share this ability with every living being with a brain. In contrast, in mediated behavior, the brain tolerates redundancy and promotes networking. The goal this time is flexibility and innovation, a new outcome every time. Different neural circuits collaborate on a solution. Eagleman terms this the team of rivals model of the brain and compares it to a parliamentary debate. Human beings have an unsurpassed capacity for mediated behavior. It's what distinguishes us from every other living being. Mediated behavior is the neurological basis of creativity. Now, we typically call creativity by a host of different names. For instance, each art form is viewed as a distinct discipline with unique methods and skills. Two cognitive scientists, Mark Turner and Gilles Fauconnier, were the first to propose that all creativity could be united in a single cognitive framework. Dr. Eagleman comes at mental life from a neurological perspective, and Drs. Turner and Fauconnier from a cognitive one, but they've been converging on the same conclusions. Creativity is a fundamental feature of human behavior, and simple underlying mechanisms can be used to explain it. Inspired by their ideas, I'm in the process of developing a way of integrating the arts more strongly into the curriculum and advocating for its role in society. It starts with the following supposition. An exact copy involves no creativity. If I copy your computer file or forge a stamp, I'm not being creative. So creativity involves an alteration of some kind. And I'm going to propose that all creativity can be explained as a combination of three basic types of alteration, what I'm going to call bending, breaking, and blending. Now, in bending, an original is transformed in some way. It's twisted out of shape. Often the original is still recognizable. In breaking, a whole is shattered into pieces and something new is made out of some or all of the pieces. And in blending, two separate sources are merged. In language, exaggeration is a type of bending. It's bending the truth. Here's Falstaff from Shakespeare's Henry V. I have peppered 2 rogues in buckram suits, 4 rogues, 7, these 9 in buckram I told thee of. Free verse is an example of breaking the rules of syntax. In this poem by E. Cummings, grammar and spelling are fractured on the page. And we often create word blends. In Manhattan, a few times a year, the sunset aligns perfectly with the grid of the city streets, and New Yorkers have taken to calling it Manhattanhenge. In Los Angeles, it's a big highway reconstruction project. People were worried about huge traffic delays, and they called it Carmageddon. All metaphors are blends. Neil Armstrong, describing his first view of the Earth from the moon, said it looked like a turquoise pendant in a black velvet sky, thereby blending our planet with a piece of jewelry. In the visual arts, caricatures are a type of bending. Here's one of rock star Mick Jagger and British Prime Minister David Cameron. The melted clocks in Salvador Dali's The Persistence of Memory are another example of bending. Here's Edvard Munch's The Scream. And here are 3 bent versions: the yawn, the pout, and the sigh. Cubism is a type of breaking. In Picasso's Guernica, breaking is used to show the horrors of war. Mosaics are also a type of breaking, and collages are blends. Cartoons are often a wonderful way to visualize blends. If you take the mathematical symbol for infinity and blend it with kids on a long car ride, you get infinity with children, are we there yet? And if you blend skywriting with writer's block, you get skywriter's block. In architecture, Frank Gehry's IAC building is an example of bending. It looks like it's been blown by the wind. Rem Koolhaas's CCTV building is an example of breaking. It has a big hole in it where you'd expect to see more offices. And Philip Johnson's UH School of Architecture is an example of blending. There's a Greek temple on top of a Victorian brick building. In narratives, any plot where a character is disguised or transformed, like Jekyll and Hyde or the Count of Monte Cristo, is an example of bending. Groundhog Day is an iconic story of bending. A TV weatherman played by Bill Murray is forced to relive Groundhog Day over and over and over again. But he refuses to live the same day the same way twice. He learns French, he becomes a piano virtuoso, he falls in love. He turns the curse of monotony into perpetual bending. Murder mysteries, escape stories are examples of breaking. And any story with humans and dinosaurs, humans and aliens involves blending. Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy of blending. Two people who were not supposed to fall in love do so. In music, variation of a theme is bending, fragmentation of a theme is breaking, and counterpoint, playing two or more themes at the same time, is blending. We're going to demonstrate that for you now with some excerpts from Beethoven's Grosse Fuge. First, we're going to play the main theme in the viola, accompanied by a martial rhythm in the first violin. Now, later in the piece, Beethoven is going to bend the viola's theme. He's going to make it gentler and more continuous and accompany it with a flowing line in the second violin. That sounds like this. Now, later in that same passage, Beethoven is going to break the viola's theme. And he's going to take a four-note fragment and pass it from the viola to the second violin and back to the viola. That sounds like this. Now, the two passages we've been sampling, the first one with the martial rhythm, the second one that's more flowing, are expressively worlds apart. And it seems impossible that they could ever come together. But at a climactic moment, that's exactly what happens. Beethoven blends the two sections. Here's how it works. The martial rhythm that was in the first violin is given to the cello and sounds like this. Meanwhile, the second violin plays that flowing accompaniment. And the first violin and the viola play the main theme. Here's what the blend sounds like. Works like the Grosse Fuge show us a human mind in action. Bending, breaking, and blending happen right in front of us. The arts make visible, make imminent internal brain processes, processes that we all share. It is the job of the arts to bend, break, and blend. That's why there will always be new art. Now, humans rely on both automated and mediated skills. We need the competency and expertise of automated skills for everything from facial recognition to driving, typing, a host of complex tasks. On the other hand, the creativity of mediated behavior makes us the most adaptable and socially sophisticated species in the history of the world. So how does the brain decide whether to automate or mediate? And part of the answer is a phenomenon called repetition suppression. In repetition suppression, if the brain recognizes that a particular stimulus or behavior is repetitive or predictable, it starts to prune neural networks. That's why the way back from somewhere we've never been before feels like it takes a shorter amount of time. We know the route, we don't have to concentrate as much, your brain starts to prune the neural resources, and time seems to go subjectively faster. Repetition suppression is also what enables a lullaby to put us to sleep. The soothing melody, played over and over again the same way, signals to our brain that it's okay to tune out. We're going to listen now to a little bit of a lullaby by Johannes Brahms. So if the quartet kept playing the same way, we would all gradually doze off. But we don't always want to fall asleep. One of the greatest contributions of the arts is that they fight repetition suppression. By asking for our full attention and rewarding it with constant novelty, the arts tell our brains to mediate, not to prune. They give us a reason to stay awake. In that sense, the arts protect consciousness. We're going to illustrate that for you with a special TEDx lullaby in which we're going to bend, break, and blend Brahms's theme. So I think the 3Bs model is of potential value to the curriculum for the following reasons. First of all, Albert Einstein once said, if you can't explain it to 6-year-olds, you don't understand it yourself. The 3Bs model is a way of explaining creativity to 6-year-olds. This is the fractured friend exercise from a Houston public school, a perfect example of breaking. Second, it prevents the cherry picking of the arts. All of them have to be taught together in order to teach the concepts. And third, it creates stronger connections with other core subjects. For instance, in math, hyperbolic space is bent geometry. I've taken this slide from a wonderful TED Talk by Margaret Wertheim in which she shows that crocheting was the solution to a 400-year-old mathematical puzzle, how to visualize hyperbolic space. Fractions are a type of breaking, and Venn diagrams blend sets. In biology, mutation and adaptation are a kind of bending. This slide shows dinosaurs gradually evolving into birds over millions of years. Death and decay are examples of breaking, and mating is blending. I also think that the 3Bs model is a way for advocating for the arts' role in society. Minds need art because human thinking is an art form. Creativity is running inside all of us 24 hours a day. In fact, we have trouble turning it off. It's not a luxury and it's not a gift. It is majestically, magnificently ordinary. It's involved in virtually everything that we do. For instance, in our private lives, if one member of a relationship moves out of town, the relationship has to bend. This is the Museum of Broken Relationships. The curators asked the public to send them items left behind from failed romances. And living together, raising a family, are blending. No one wants to live the same day twice. Even if it were the happiest day of our lives, it's the nature of the brain that the happiness would wear off. It would become automated and lose its impact in our attention. That's why humans stay continually creative. The arts aren't divorced from the rest of our experience. They are our experience in a more concentrated way. Every apple in the supermarket is actually a human invention. Apple growers take different breeds and they blend them. And if they like a particular blend, then they reproduce it over several generations. And if it keeps its taste and texture, then they give it a name: Sweet Tango, Pink Lady, Honeycrisp. If Turner and Fauconnier are right, every human mind is an orchard, with more trees in it than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy, because that's how many neurons we have. It is the role of the arts to cultivate and harvest that orchard. That's why minds need art. Thank you.